What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Clint from the Die Hard MMA podcast here with Odds HQ. This is total madness for UFC Vegas 10. We are talking ladies night coming up here on Saturday, and we have got to break down the totals for this entire card: over, under, 1.5, 2.5. We're going to go over all of it, and I'll lean either way for you, maybe even find a couple of bets. We got a big card this week, so let's go ahead and dig right on into it. Kicking our night off, we've got Sabina Mazo taking on Justine. Kish, total here set at 2.5. And remember, we always talk about this. The women's fights, they tend to trend to the over. We've got it juiced minus 335 here to the over 2.5. And I can't say that I can argue with it. I mean, really, the durability of Justine Kish is going to be the story of this fight. I think she's going to have a hard time with the reach of Sabina Mazo, but I don't think that Sabina Mazo has the tools to put someone as tough and gritty as Kish away. And on the same token, I don't see Kish having the opportunity to put Sabina Mazo away unless somehow she chops down that tree and does enough damage to the leg to get a TKO. I just don't see it happening. I think the over hits, and I'm not touching minus 335 when it comes to that. Anthony Ivy taking on Bryan Barberena. We've got a total on this one set at 1.5 rounds. Over 1.5 is juiced minus 130. The under 1.5 is plus 110. This is a fight that I can see going just a little bit longer. Bryan Barberena is coming off a year-long break. He had a surgery. He's back in shape. He might have a little bit of ring rust. Anthony Ivy's coming off of a bad knockout. I think he's probably going to look to extend this fight, grapple, keep it off of the feet so he doesn't have that, PTSD from getting knocked out again. And I can see this fight dragging out a little bit. I can see Barberena getting a second or a third round finish, maybe even just beating this guy up for a decision. This could be a scramble fest as, maybe Barberena isn't able to completely defend the takedowns and they get into a ground battle. There's a lot of ways this fight could go, and I lean to that over at minus 130. Brok Weaver taking on Frank Camacho. We've got the total once again set at 2.5. The over 2.5 is plus 110. The under 2.5 is minus 130. And it's juiced to the under here, and I find that a little bit interesting. We've seen that Frank Camacho simply has that quit in him. He does give up. He can be broken, and when that happens, he gets finished. Now, he's taking on a guy in Brok Weaver who's really just a grinder. This guy is tough, he's gritty, he's durable, he looks to wear on his opponents, but he doesn't really have that stinging, killing, finishing power. I could see this one making it the full 15 minutes. I could see Brok Weaver making this ugly, making this dirty, but not quite having enough to really put Frank Camacho away. On the other side, I could absolutely see Frank Camacho just having the slicker ground game, being able to wrap himself around the neck of Brok Weaver, locking up a submission, and then we have seen Frank Camacho's chin tacked a couple of times, and because of that, maybe Brok Weaver does have the ability to go ahead and put him down again. So this is one that I am not going to touch, simply because I can absolutely see both outcomes happening. And even though you do have two guys that potentially could contribute to this undercashing, I just don't know if I want to touch it. This is a very, very sketchy fight, and honestly one that I suggest you wait for the weigh-ins for if you're going to make some kind of a read like that. If both guys come in shape, ready to go, there's no telling what happens on this one, and I think it's a dog or pass situation. Alan Patrick taking on Bobby King Green. We've got the total once again set at 2.5 rounds. The over is minus 240. The under is plus 200. Alan Patrick, we haven't seen this guy for 2 full years. He took 2 full years off. He's always a guy that's been plagued by injuries, but when he is on, he is on, and then when he is not on, he gets knocked out. Now he's 37 years old. He's coming back after a long layoff. He's taken on Bobby Green, who's notoriously hard to get to the mat and notoriously hard to submit. So we do have two guys that could potentially contribute to this under here at plus 200. I don't necessarily mind it. Bobby Green was very, very close to finishing in his last fight. His opponent was able to hang on and survive until the judges' scorecard. Alan Patrick is a much older, much more miles on his body. Maybe he can't hang on if he's taking an ass beating in the third round. Maybe he gets a hold of that neck. Maybe he's a high enough Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner that he can get this fight to the mat and then be able to take advantage of Bobby Green once it gets down there. So I would not hate a stab at the under 2.5 on Patrick versus Green. Matt Frevola taking on Roosevelt Roberts. We've got the total once again set at 2.5 rounds. Over is minus 255. Under is plus 215. This is another one that you could say on paper these guys can both contribute to the under, and at plus 215 it doesn't sound half bad. However, Matt Frevola is an excellent grappler. He's a very powerful, strong wrestler. He's got an excellent jiu-jitsu game. I don't know that Roberts is going to be able to find a sneaky submission on a guy of this caliber. Same thing on the flip side. And Matt Frevola, even though he hits hard, grappling is his go-to move. He wears on people. He beats them up for 15 straight minutes. I don't know that he's going to be able to knock out a guy like Roosevelt Roberts, and I don't know that he's going to pull a Jim Miller and pull guard and end up going for some kind of an arm bar or something like that. I just don't see him putting himself in that kind of a position. I think this one makes it to the judges' scorecards. I think the minus 255 is right, and I don't necessarily want to play that one or touch it. Sajara Eubanks taking on Julia Avila. And this is a very, very interesting spot here. Over 2.5 is minus 200. Under 2.5 is plus 170. I know we talk about the women's fights, generally speaking, heading on to that over, but this is one where I would not mind a poke on the under 2.5. Sajara Eubanks is an excellent high-level Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner. She's a huge step up in competition for Julia Avila. So if she's able to get it to the mat, if she's able to be on top and be dominant, maybe she finds her way to a submission. Avila on the other side seems to really be coming into her own, and when she is on and clicking, Avila is mean. They call her the Raging Panda for a reason. She hurts people, and Sajara Eubanks has a notoriously bad gas tank. If she can't keep her fighting spirit up for a full 15 minutes, there's a chance Avila puts her away in the second round because she has a super high work rate and she just overwhelms her opponents. I could absolutely see Avila landing some kind of a big body shot, putting Eubanks down and getting yet another TKO. That under 2.5 at plus 170 is tempting. Tyson Nam taking on Matt Schnell. Over under 2.5 set at the under minus 115. Over is minus 105. This is practically a pick'em, ever so slightly juice to the under, and this is one that I targeted, folks. This is one that I'm very, very closely looking at putting a play on the under 2.5. What we've seen from Matt Schnell is he's got fast hands, sharp boxing, and he is willing to put himself in the fire. Because of that, he opens himself to getting countered. What we have seen from Tyson Nam is that this dude hits really freaking hard. There's an excellent chance that Tyson Nam lands a bomb on the chin of Schnell and puts him down. However, what Matt Schnell brings to the table is a 6 submission game. And when he can get people scrambling, when he can get them moving and get them onto the mat, he chokes them out. He's choked out a whole lot of people. He's got a wicked submission game. Both these guys can finish. And because of that chin issue for Matt Schnell, if this fight gets extended, if he welcomes that brawl like he does every single time, one of these guys is going out. I like that under 2.5. And it may even be an official bet for me in the near future. Kyle Nelson taking on Billy Quarantillo. We've got another 2.5 total here. The over is plus 125. The under is minus 145. And the only way I can look here is under. So Kyle Nelson, they call this kid the monster. He comes out in round 1 like nothing else. He's a world champion in round 1. However, once you get him to round 2, he's not the same guy. Once you make this guy scramble, once you make this guy move, he runs out of gas. He runs out of gas quickly. And I'm personally on Billy Quarantillo here. I think he grinds on Kyle Nelson, and he brings the type of relentless offense that's going to tire somebody like that out. And then he will find a way to look for the door. He will give up a choke. He will get caught in something and not be able to defend himself because he's out of gas and maybe get TKO'd on the mat. That under 2.5 is maybe the best bet on this fight, and it's only minus 145. I know I talk about not wanting to lay juice on totals, but I have a hard time seeing how this fight gets to the judges' scorecards. I don't mind that under 2.5 one bit. Ed Herman taking on Mike Rodriguez. Once again, they've set this total at 2.5, which I find a little bit odd. I actually expected this total to be 1.5, and they've got it juiced minus 170 to the under, and once again, that's the only way that I can look. The over 2.5 is plus 140, and the only way this fight gets over is if Ed Herman has enough gas left in the tank to wrestle this kid for 15 minutes, and I simply don't see it. Both these guys have their flaws. Mike Rodriguez is huge for the division. Tall, long, strong, excellent Muay Thai, big bombs, big knees, big elbows. When he gets in the clinch, he hurts people. Ed Herman does his best work in the clinch as well. And what he does still have is power. We've seen Mike Rodriguez be chinny. We've seen this guy get put away before. We've seen him have some quit in him, and I don't know that he's UFC caliber, honestly. He's got UFC caliber offense, but he does not have UFC caliber defense. So if this fight gets to the mat, Ed Herman is going to have a massive, massive grappling edge there. And I don't know that he's looking to grapple for 15 minutes. Let's face it, he's turned into an old man at this point. I think he will be looking to get Mike Rodriguez out of there, whether it's by ground and pound or by submission, before we hit that final bell. Again, as much as we talk about not wanting to lay that kind of chalk on a total, under 2.5 at minus 170 is about the only way I could look. I would be curious to see what they would offer for a alternate total of the 1.5, because honestly, I could see this being a one-round fight once again. That seems to be what Mike Rodriguez does. You've got some extra time with that under 2.5, but that minus 170 is a little pricey. Maybe we can get a pick'em down at the over-under 1.5. Roxanne Modafferi taking on Andrea KGB Lee. This is another one. We've got the total set here at 2.5, and I've got a hard time disputing it. Over 2.5 is minus 425. Holy crap, talk about eating chalk. Under 2.5 is plus 340. And realistically speaking, if you're betting the under 2.5 here, you're betting on Andrea KGB Lee. When Roxanne Modafferi has the opportunity to win a fight, it's because she's grinding. It's because she's gritty, she's tough, she's on top, and she just holds that position. She doesn't have enough power to TKO anybody or get the referee to step in and actually stop the fight. Yes, her submission game is on point and it's high level. However, she's going up against somebody who scrambles extremely well, much younger, much more athletic, in Andrea KGB Lee. I don't think Roxy is going to snap off any kind of a submission here. The only way I can see this fight ending inside the distance is that volume of Andrea Lee. If Roxanne Modafferi has gotten that chin cracked one too many times, which we saw her wobble in her last fight pretty bad, if Andrea Lee can overwhelm her on the feet, we could absolutely see maybe a later TKO for her, and I do think there is a threat of that. However, if you're going to do something like that, you may as well just take Andrea Lee inside the distance or by TKO. You're probably going to get a better line than the plus 340 here on the under 2.5. I don't see Roxy finishing this fight. She nearly never does, and it's a long shot for Lee to even finish the fight because Roxy has proven to be nothing but durable. Long story short, the over's the only way I can look, and at that line, I ain't touching it. Khama taking on Ottman Azaitar. This is a fun fight here. I'm really looking forward to this one. We've got the total set at 1.5 rounds. Over is minus 135. Under is plus 115. And I would be very, very tempted to look at the under here in this spot. Ottman Azaitar has absolute missiles for hands, and we know that Khama has been knocked out multiple times. Granted, that was at 145, not at 155. I do have to say that every single time. I know some of you are sick of hearing it, but it's the truth. And because of that, Khama, if he can take a couple of shots from Ottman Azaitar and then look to take this thing to the mat, if he can make this a grappling match, we've seen just how slick his submission game is. He choked out Luis Pena in his last fight. However, I don't know if that'll happen early. That may just squeak over that 1.5 mark again for him to wear out someone like Azaitar and then be able to actually get that submission finish. So I would be leaning to the under, but honestly, for me, this one's just a bit of a stay away. We have reached the main event of the evening, folks. We've got Michelle Waterson taking on Angela Hill. Over 4.5. This is a 5-round main event, folks. Over 4.5 is minus 280. The under 4.5 is plus 240. This one is very, very intriguing to me because all logic says that it should go over. This is a women's fight. These two are both durable. They like to play the range game, and over seems to be the play. Someone's winning this thing by decision. However, I've got a really sneaky feeling that someone is finishing this fight. I mean, we have seen Angela Hill show really precise, really tight striking and some power that we haven't seen for a long time in her last couple of fights. Angela Hill really seems to be peaking. And on the flip side of this, we've seen Michelle Waterson's ground game. We've seen that she is able to take people's back. She took Joanna Jędrzejczyk's back in her last fight, and Joanna most recently was the #1 contender. She can absolutely dominate Hill on the mat if she can get the fight there. Both these women have avenues to finishing this fight, and if either one of them has even the slightest opportunity over the course of 25 minutes, that under 2.5 at plus 240 is mighty tempting in my opinion. I don't know that I'm going to play that one. I already have a bet on this main event, and that's not it. So I'm tempted, though, let me tell you. Plus 240 is the price that you want to get when you've got two people that are capable and you've got a 5-round main event as opposed to a 3-round main event. There's way more time for that finish to manifest. So wouldn't mind taking a look at that under 4.5. That's it, folks. That's Total Madness. We've got a couple totals that we're very interested in, a couple that are borderline, may end up making a move a little bit later in the week. Follow me at DieHard MMA Pod on Twitter to see all my official bets when I do lock them in. Thank you all so much for the support. Make sure you share the video, hit the like and subscribe buttons. Good luck on all your action, and we'll see you on Friday for the post-weigh-in recap.